The Monroe mansion stood on a hill overlooking the city, a monument to generations of textile wealth that had sourced its conceptual beginnings from the vibrant marketplaces of Nigeria oceans away, and now manifested in the hushed opulence of imported Italian marble and hand-woven Persian rugs. Richard Monroe, the patriarch, surveyed his domain with a practiced eye. A silver-haired titan in a bespoke suit. His empire, built on the backs of cotton farmers and the nimble fingers of factory workers, was his legacy. But behind the facade of prosperity lurked a disquieting secret. Richard's wife, Eleanor, was a ghost in her own home, confined to a wing of the mansion. She existed in a perpetual twilight, her mind dulled by a cocktail of sedatives. The official story was that she suffered from a rare neurological disorder, a convenient explanation that kept prying eyes away. The truth was far more sinister. Eleanor knew too much. She had witnessed Richard's ruthless climb to power, the deals made in shadows, the lives ruined in the pursuit of profit. Her conscience, a dangerous liability, had been silenced with the help of a discreet doctor and a steady supply of pills. Richard had 2 sons, Allister the elder and Damien the younger. Allister, with his sharp suits and sharper wit, was the heir apparent, groomed from birth to take over the family business. He was a mirror image of his father, cold and calculating, with a hunger for power that burned beneath his polished exterior. Damien, on the other hand, was an artist at heart, more comfortable with a paintbrush than a balance sheet. He saw the beauty in the world, a stark contrast to the ugliness he had sensed within his own family. Both brothers had recently married. Allister's wife, Seraphina, was a socialite with a pedigree as impressive as the Monroe fortune. She was ambitious and saw her marriage as a strategic alliance, a stepping stone to even greater influence. Damien's wife, Iris, was an art student, drawn to Damien's sensitive soul and his genuine desire to make a difference. She was an outsider in the Monroe world. her bright spirit a beacon in the gathering darkness. As Seraphina navigated the treacherous waters of high society, and Iris tried to unravel the mysteries of her new family, they both began to sense that something was deeply wrong within the Monroe mansion. Whispers in the corridors, locked doors, and the haunted look in the eyes of the staff hinted at a darkness that lurked beneath the surface of their gilded cage. The tension in the Monroe dining room was thick enough to cut with a silver knife. Richard Monroe sat at the head of the long mahogany table, his gaze fixed on Iris with barely concealed disapproval. She, in turn, tried to avoid his eyes, focusing instead on the intricate floral pattern of the china. "So, Iris," Richard began, his voice a low rumble, "how are you finding married life? And more importantly, how are you adjusting to being a part of the Monroe family?" Iris swallowed, placing her fork carefully on her plate. "It's an adjustment, Mr. Monroe, but Damien has been wonderful, and I'm learning a lot." "Learning, yes," Richard said, a hint of a sardonic smile playing on his lips. "But are you interested in learning about the family business? Allister and Seraphina are already deeply involved." Iris hesitated. "I appreciate what the family has built, of course, but my passion is art. I'm hoping to continue painting." Richard's eyebrows rose. "Art, yes. Damien mentioned your proclivities. Of course, Damien has always had a soft spot for the aesthetic. But textiles, Iris, are an art form in themselves. The weaving, the dyeing, the design, it's all a canvas waiting to be filled with our vision." "With all due respect, Mr. Monroe," Iris replied, her voice gaining a newfound steel, "what you do isn't art, it's commerce. You see cloth as a commodity. I see art as a way to express something deeper." Allister chuckled softly, earning a sharp glare from his father. Seraphina, ever the diplomat, tried to smooth things over. "Iris, darling, I think you might find that there's more creativity involved in the business than you realize. The new line of silk scarves we're launching, for example, is inspired by ancient Nigerian patterns. That's wonderful, Iris said, but I fell in love with Damien because he saw the world the way I do. He understood my art. He encouraged it. I'm not sure I'd have been interested in someone who only saw the world in terms of profit and loss. Richard's face darkened. Love is a luxury, Iris. Business is reality. And in this family, reality always wins. He pushed back his chair, the sound echoing in the vast room. I trust in time. You will come to understand that. As Richard swept out of the dining room, Iris felt a chill run down her spine. She had spoken her mind, but at what cost? She glanced at Damien, who gave her a small, apologetic smile. He knew his father, and he knew that this was just the beginning. In the days that followed the dinner confrontation, Richard's displeasure manifested in subtle but effective ways. Damien, who had always enjoyed a certain level of financial independence, thanks to a trust fund established by his grandmother, found his access to his funds inexplicably restricted. Small expenses were denied. Invoices went unpaid. And suddenly, the gallery where Damien showcased his art seemed less enthusiastic about his work. Richard never explicitly mentioned the dinner conversation or Iris's unsuitable views. Instead, he cloaked his actions in the language of business, tightening the belt, he called it, ensuring fiscal responsibility in certain times. But Damien knew the truth. This was a calculated punishment, a way to bring him and, by extension, Iris, into line. Allister, meanwhile, watched his brother's predicament with a detached amusement. He would never openly gloat. That wasn't his style. But there was a gleam in his eye, a subtle tightening to his lip that betrayed his satisfaction. He had always resented Damien's artistic pursuits, seeing them as frivolous and a waste of the Monroe name. Now Seeing his brother struggle, Alistair felt a surge of vindication. One evening, as Damien was staring at a pile of unpaid bills, Alistair entered his brother's studio. "Rough patch?" he asked, his voice carefully neutral. Damien sighed, running a hand through his hair. "You could say that. It seems my art isn't as valuable as it used to be." Alistair leaned against the doorframe, studying his brother with a predatory gaze. "Perhaps it's time to consider a more practical career path. A father could always use another hand in the business. You have a good head on your shoulders, Damien. It would be a shame to waste it on something as ephemeral as paint." Damien bristled. "I'm not you, Alistair. I'm not interested in spreadsheets and profit margins. I want to create something that matters." Alistair shrugged. "Suit yourself. But don't come crying to me when you can't pay the bills." He paused, then added, almost as an afterthought, "Iris must be thrilled." Damien's jaw tightened. "Leave Iris out of this." Alistair smiled, a cold, mirthless expression. "Of course. Wouldn't want to upset the muse. Just remember, Damien, every choice has a price." Alistair left, leaving Damien alone with his frustrations and the growing realization that his father and his brother were determined to break his spirit. Driven by a growing unease and a desire to understand the strange atmosphere of the Monroe mansion, Iris found herself drawn to the forbidden wing where Eleanor was kept. She knew it was off limits, but a chance encounter with a distracted housekeeper provided an opportunity. The door to the wing was ajar, and curiosity overwhelmed her. Slipping inside, Iris found herself in a dimly lit corridor, the air thick with the scent of antiseptic and old money. She followed the sound of a faint, melodic voice to a room at the end of the hall. Hesitantly, she pushed the door open. Eleanor Monroe sat by the window, her eyes wide and unfocused. She was dressed in a simple white gown, her silver hair cascading down her shoulders. She didn't seem to notice Iris at first, muttering to herself in a rambling
disjointed monologue. The shadows are growing longer, Richard. He thinks I don't see the deals, the secrets, the blood on his hands. But the clock will remember. It always does. Eleanor's voice was a fragile whisper, laced with fear and paranoia. She spoke of betrayals, of hidden ledgers, and of a darkness that was consuming the family. Iris, horrified, stepped closer. Mrs. Monroe, are you all right? Eleanor's eyes snapped into focus, her gaze piercing and intense. You can hear them too. The whispers. He thinks he can silence me, but they won't let me be quiet. He's a monster, child. A monster. He feeds on the souls of the innocent, and he'll destroy everything we hold dear. Before Iris could respond, a stern voice echoed from the hallway. Who's there? It was one of the nurses, her face etched with alarm. You shouldn't be here. Get out now. Panic surged through Iris. She fled the room, the nurse hot on her heels. She managed to escape the wing unnoticed, but the encounter left her shaken and deeply disturbed. That evening, Richard summoned Damien to his study. The air was thick with unspoken accusations. I understand your wife has been snooping around where she doesn't belong, Richard said, his voice dangerously calm. Damien's heart sank. I don't know what you're talking about. Don't play coy with me, Damien. Iris visited your mother today. She has no business there, and you know it. Damien's face paled. He knew what this meant. She didn't mean any harm. She was just curious. Richard slammed his fist on the desk. Curiosity killed the cat, Damien. Your wife's curiosity could unravel everything I've worked for. You need to control her. Keep her away from your mother. Do you understand? The punishment was swift and brutal. Damien's remaining access to funds was cut off entirely. His studio was locked, his art supplies confiscated. He was effectively grounded, a prisoner in his own home. That night, Damien confronted Iris, his anger simmering beneath the surface. "What were you thinking?" he demanded. "You know you're not supposed to go near my mother. Now my father has taken everything from me. How could you be so reckless?" Tears streamed down Iris's face. "I didn't mean to cause any trouble. I just wanted to understand. Your mother said terrible things about your father." "My mother is not well, Iris. You can't believe anything she says. You've made things so much worse for us." Damien turned away, his voice laced with bitterness. "I thought you loved me, but maybe you just love causing chaos." The following morning, Iris found Damien outside his studio, staring blankly at the locked door. She approached him cautiously, her heart heavy with guilt. "Damien," she began, her voice soft. "I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to hurt you or cause trouble for your family. I was just trying to understand." Damien didn't turn to face her. "It's done, Iris. The damage is done." "But I can fix it," she pleaded. "I can talk to your father, explain that it was all a misunderstanding." Damien finally turned, his eyes filled with a mixture of anger and weariness. "You don't understand, Iris. You can't fix this. My father doesn't listen to reason. He only cares about control." Iris stepped closer, reaching out to take his hand. "Then what can we do? I can't just stand by and watch you lose everything." Damien hesitated, then sighed, relenting slightly. "Just promise me you won't do anything like that again. Promise me you'll stay away from my mother. Promise me you won't risk what doesn't affect you." Iris searched his eyes, sensing the deep-seated fear that drove his words. "I promise," she said softly. Damien pulled her close, holding her tightly. "Thank you," he whispered. "I know my family isn't perfect, but it's my family. and they worked hard to get me everything I wanted. I can't fix them if they kick me out. He pulled back, a hint of arrogance creeping into his voice. You have to understand, Iris. I appreciate your concern, but sometimes you need to let people fight their own battles. You're an artist and have never done anything else. You see the world in black and white. My family is more complicated than that. There are shades of grey you can't even imagine. Iris felt a pang of disappointment. She had hoped for a genuine reconciliation, a shared understanding. But Damien's acceptance came with conditions. A reminder that she was still an outsider. A guest in his gilded cage. He was willing to forgive her, but not to trust her completely. He valued her love, but not her insight. As she looked into his eyes, she realized that Damien was trapped, not just by his father's control, but by his own fear of losing the privileges he had always enjoyed. And she wondered if their love could survive the weight of his family's secrets. Allister Monroe moved through the world with the practiced ease of a seasoned predator. He was a master of appearances, a chameleon who could adapt to any situation, mimic any emotion. He had learned early on that genuine talent was less valuable than the perception of talent, especially in the eyes of his father. Richard saw in Allister a reflection of his younger self, ambitious, ruthless, and utterly devoted to the family business. What Richard didn't see was that Allister's devotion was a carefully constructed performance, a means to an end. Allister didn't care about textiles or profit margins or any of the things that consumed his father's working hours. He cared about power, and the Monroe Empire was his ticket to the top. His marriage to Serafina was a prime example of his strategic thinking. Serafina came from a family as old and as wealthy as the Monroes, and their union was a mutually beneficial arrangement. For Allister, it was a consolidation of power, a way to solidify his position as Richard's heir apparent. For Serafina, it was a step up the social ladder, a chance to expand her influence and acquire even greater wealth. Their relationship was a carefully choreographed dance, a performance for the benefit of the outside world. They attended galas, hosted lavish parties, and smiled for the cameras, projecting an image of marital bliss. But behind closed doors, their interactions were cold and calculated. They shared a bed, but not a soul. Serafina knew that Allister didn't love her, and she didn't love him. But she respected his ambition, and she admired his cunning. She saw him as a valuable ally, a partner in their shared pursuit of power. She tolerated his occasional infidelities, understanding that they were simply a release of tension, a consequence of his insatiable hunger. Allister, in turn, appreciated Serafina's sharp mind and her social connections. She was his advisor, his confidant, and his shield against the prying eyes of the elite. He knew that she was just as ruthless as he was, and that she would betray him in a heartbeat if it suited her purpose. But he wasn't afraid. He was confident that he could outmaneuver her, that he could always be one step ahead. One evening, as they were preparing for a charity auction, Serafina turned to Allister, a knowing glint in her eyes. "Your father seems pleased with your handling of the new silk import deal," she observed. Allister smiled, a flicker of genuine satisfaction crossing his face. "He appreciates my dedication." Serafina chuckled softly. "Dedication, yes, and your ability to mimic his every move. You're a quick study, Allister. But don't forget, imitation is not the same as innovation." Allister's smile faded slightly. "I know exactly what I'm doing, Serafina. I'm playing the game, and I'm winning." "Are you, Allister?" Serafina raised an eyebrow. "Or are you just a puppet dancing on your father's strings?" Allister's eyes narrowed. "Be careful, Serafina. You're starting to sound like Damien." Serafina laughed, a cold, mirthless sound. "Don't worry, darling. I have no intention of throwing away my advantages for some idealistic fantasy. I'm simply reminding you that power is a dangerous game, and you can never truly trust anyone, not even your own reflection."
Iris was wandering through the mansion, trying to distract herself from the strained atmosphere at home, when she stumbled upon a scene that made her blood run cold. In a dimly lit corner of the grand ballroom, Richard had his hand on Seraphina's back, his head close to her ear as he whispered something. The intimacy of the gesture, the possessive way he touched her, sent a shiver down Iris's spine. As if sensing her presence, Richard pulled back, his eyes locking with Iris's. A flicker of annoyance crossed his face, quickly replaced by a practiced smile. "Iris, my dear, just the person I wanted to see." He straightened his jacket and stepped away from Seraphina, who remained composed, a slight smirk playing on her lips. "Would you be so kind as to fetch Damien for me? I'd like a word with him." Fear clenched Iris's heart. She knew that Richard's words often came with a price. She hesitated, but Richard's gaze was unwavering, and she knew she had no choice. "Of course, Mr. Monroe." As she hurried to find Damien, she couldn't shake the image of Richard and Seraphina. What was going on between them? And why did she feel like she had just walked into a carefully staged play? When Damien arrived, he was wary, his defenses raised. Seraphina greeted him warmly, a stark contrast to the coldness she usually displayed. "Damien, darling, your father has a wonderful opportunity for you." Richard gestured for them to sit, his expression radiating benevolence. "Damien, I've been doing a lot of thinking lately, and I've come to realize that I may have underestimated your artistic talents." He paused, glancing at Iris. "Iris has opened my eyes to the importance of design, of creativity. She has a vision for the future, and I believe you share that vision." Damien looked at Iris, confusion etched on his face. "I don't understand." Richard continued, his voice smooth and persuasive. "I want to offer you a position as head of designs for Monroe Textiles. You'll have complete artistic freedom, the resources to bring your ideas to life. You'll be able to shape the future of the company with your unique vision." Iris was speechless. This was completely unexpected. Richard had never shown any interest in her opinions, let alone valued them. What was he up to? Damien, however, was cautiously optimistic. "You're serious?" "Absolutely," Richard said, his smile widening. "I believe in second chances, Damien. And I believe in your potential. All thanks to Iris, who spoke so highly of your skills." He looked pointedly at Iris. "I've learned to trust her judgment." Damien turned to Iris, his eyes filled with gratitude. "Thank you," he whispered. "I don't know what you said, but thank you." He then turned back to Richard. "Thank you, Father. I won't let you down." As Damien basked in his father's unexpected approval, Iris noticed Seraphina watching them. Her eyes narrowed, a subtle smirk playing on her lips. The smirk said it all. This was a game, and they were all pawns. To everyone's surprise, Damien excelled in his new role as head of designs. He approached the position with a passion and vision that had been stifled for far too long. He assembled a team of talented designers, fostering a collaborative and creative environment that was a stark contrast to the cutthroat atmosphere that permeated the rest of the company. Damien's designs were innovative and bold, pushing the boundaries of traditional textile art. He gravitated towards African prints, incorporating vibrant colors, intricate patterns, and ancient motifs into his creations. His work resonated with customers, breathing new life into the Monroe Textiles brand. Sales soared, and Damien quickly became a rising star within the company. He earned the respect of his subordinates, who admired his firm but fair leadership style. He was demanding, but he always listened to their ideas and valued their contributions. He fostered a sense of camaraderie and mutual support, creating a team that was both highly productive and deeply loyal. Iris was thrilled to see Damien finally fulfilling his potential. His newfound confidence and success invigorated their relationship. With Damien's increased prosperity, Iris found it easier to pursue her own artistic growth. She was able to afford a larger studio, better supplies, and more time to focus on her painting. They started hosting salons in their home, inviting artists, writers, and musicians to share their work and exchange ideas. Their
home became a haven for creativity, a vibrant counterpoint to the sterile world of the Monroe mansion. One evening, as they were preparing for a salon, Iris turned to Damien, her eyes shining with happiness. "I'm so proud of you," she said. "You've transformed the company, and you've transformed our lives." Damien smiled, pulling her close. "I couldn't have done it without you," he said. "You inspired me. You believed in me, even when I didn't believe in myself." For a moment, they were content, basking in the glow of their shared success. But Iris couldn't shake the feeling that something was still amiss. Richard's sudden change of heart, Seraphina's knowing smirk. It all seemed too convenient, too perfect. She couldn't shake the suspicion that they were being manipulated, that they were pawns in a larger game. Despite Damien's success and their newfound happiness, Iris couldn't shake the feeling that something was deeply wrong within the Monroe family. The memory of her encounter with Eleanor, the whispers of betrayal and hidden secrets haunted her. She couldn't reconcile Richard's seemingly benevolent actions with the image of the ruthless man Eleanor had described. But what truly gnawed at her was the thought of Eleanor herself, trapped in her isolated wing, slowly fading away. The more Iris learned about the family, the more she felt a growing sense of shame that everyone seemed willing to accept Eleanor's fate without question. Driven by compassion and a desperate need to understand the truth, Iris decided to take matters into her own hands. Using some of the money she had earned from her art sales, she bribed one of Eleanor's nurses, a young woman named Martha, who seemed sympathetic to Eleanor's plight. Under the cover of darkness, Martha led Iris to the forbidden wing. The air was heavy with a scent of medicine and despair. They reached Eleanor's room just as Martha was preparing to administer her medication. "Please," Iris whispered, "wait until I'm gone. Just a few minutes." Martha hesitated, then nodded. Her eyes filled with a mixture of fear and understanding. Iris entered the room, her heart pounding in her chest. Eleanor sat by the window, her gaze vacant, her face pale and gaunt. Iris sat beside her, taking her hand gently. For a long moment, they sat in silence, Iris trying to connect with the woman whose life had been stolen from her. "Mrs. Monroe," Iris said softly. "It's Iris, Damien's wife. I wanted to see you, to let you know that you're not forgotten." Eleanor didn't respond. Her eyes remained unfocused, her expression blank. Iris tried asking questions, but Eleanor seemed lost in her own world, unresponsive to external stimuli. Time was running out. Martha reappeared at the door, her face etched with worry. "I have to give her the medication now," she whispered. "We can't risk getting caught." Iris sighed, her heart sinking. She had hoped for some kind of breakthrough, some clue that would help her understand Eleanor's situation. As she stood to leave, she squeezed Eleanor's hand one last time. Suddenly, Eleanor's fingers tightened around Iris's wrist. Her eyes snapped into focus, a flicker of recognition and urgency flashing within them. She looked directly at Iris, her gaze intense and unwavering. "Find Hamilton," she rasped, her voice barely a whisper. Then, just as quickly, her eyes glazed over again, and she released Iris's hand. Iris stared at Eleanor, her mind reeling. Find Hamilton? Who was Hamilton? And what did he have to do with Eleanor's plight?